How's it going, everyone? My name's Christian. I'm from the cohort of 2027, and I will be discussing about my first clinical rotation. The setting I was in was in acute/rehab at Sharp Grossmont Hospital. In terms of preparation, it's a bit upsetting to say that I didn't do anything specifically to prepare. We were still in the toughest semester of the program, which was the first spring semester, the second semester overall. So I didn't really give myself enough time or the grace to actually sit down, review acute stuff. But at the same time, I never forgot anything except minor details like where a foot goes or during a transfer, stuff like that. But I still knew how to do all the transfers. I still knew how to manage my lines. So if I had to recommend something to someone, I would say look over all the lectures, find what you struggle with, and study it, because you are going to encounter it. There's going to be things that you've read about that you've never experienced, and you're going to get all of it, and all you could do is tell yourself you don't know nothing. You know stuff, you've been prepared, you've been taught everything that you need to be taught, and you'll learn more because someone's always going to be by your side, helping you, guiding you, answering any questions. But the main thing in terms of preparation is just go over everything that you can and ask yourself what you struggle with, because you owe it to yourself to be able to be confident, and you owe it to the patients especially, if anything else. Specific challenges that I struggled with were little details, which is weird because I'm a very detail-oriented person, but there were just basic mistakes that I was making, like not having all the equipment with me before going into the room, or again, not positioning someone in the best way. There's no right or, well, there are wrong ways, but not utilizing or using my knowledge to really make the treatment that much more better. And I would make the same mistakes that weren't detrimental, but it was difficult for me to look at myself and say, okay, you know what you have to do to learn, you know what mistakes you're making, and you know how to correct them, but it was just a lot more difficult for me individually to make those mistakes and correct them. And experience them over and over and over again. And again, they were minor mistakes, nothing major ever happened, but it was just a difficult experience. Again, by the end of the rotation, I was able to correct myself on a lot of stuff without cueing from my CI, but it shouldn't have happened as often. So I would recommend holding yourself to a higher standard, a realistic standard, and not one that's going to be detrimental. But definitely ask yourself, okay, what mistakes am I making? When am I making them? How am I making them? And what do I have to do in the session, even if it means taking my time to correct it and make sure it doesn't happen again? For better or for worse, I wouldn't say there weren't any specific expectations. I mean, there were the goals that my CI and I set at the beginning and every week, and we would set those, and those were the expectations that we held for me. The difference is my CI and the facility didn't have any specific expectations aside some rules like students can't be left alone with patients. I mean, the CI has to be there at all times. Little things like that, just general rules. But in terms of documentation, in terms of treatment, all of that, those were addressed in the weekly goals that we had to submit, and we did really good at making sure that we found the opportunities to practice them. Did we always succeed? No, but we always knew that, okay, each session is an opportunity to practice, each charting review, everything is an opportunity to practice. In terms of my own expectations, I always had high expectations for myself, again, for better or for worse. I expected myself not to be perfect, but to do better than what I think a student should do. And that was a little difficult because when I would see myself not performing to the standard, then I would get into my own head. And again, I got better at not doing that, but just having realistic and attainable goals for yourself and standards as to where you are, your skill set, your confidence level, and levels that address and confide to all of those is gonna do you a big favor. At the end of it all, I actually enjoyed this setting, which is weird because I was always an aid and outpatient. My brain always went orthopedic. Like, that's just how I work. So I was very, very nervous, not just because it was my first clinical rotation, but I was really nervous that I would mess this up and that I wouldn't flourish or do good in this rotation. Come to find out, I did really well for what for what I did. Of course, there's always room for improvement, even if you've been practicing for 20, 30 years, there's always room for improvement. But I found myself enjoying it and and seeing that it wasn't what I thought it was, which was great because I still see myself as an orthopedic practitioner, but I told myself if I can enjoy this experience and learn in this experience and just enjoy the field more in a setting that I thought I wouldn't thrive in, how am I going to do in the setting that I know I will thrive in? So I can see myself working in with this population for sure, but I think I owe it to myself to experience what I know I'll like more and make a decision if my mind changes.